taking the iconic shot at the iconic place might be the worst choice you can make on a field. Most photographers end up doing this though, and their photos don't stand out and they appear boring. And if you're anything like me, you don't want that to happen. Hi, I'm Hugo. I travel and photograph the world full time, and I help other photographers transform their own photos. This is where I was with my own photos about 8 years ago, and now I take photos like this. In this video I'll go through my hot takes on how you should photograph iconic locations and things that you definitely should not do. By the way, I get asked all the time what gear do I use to make my photos. So if you want to find that out, get my free photography toolkit from the link in the description. Alright, so I've missed out on getting some of the best photos at iconic locations due to me not understanding what I go through in this video. Some places where I've made mistakes are Lofoten in Norway and Finnish Lapland. The three things I talk on today are not about settings. If you're anything like me, you don't like focusing on settings, calculating the focus and so on. I hate that stuff. Settings are important, but they are not the most important part of photography, like many photography teachers out there might lead you to believe. Alright, so the first thing is a huge mistake I see photographers making when going for these iconic places. And the mistake is they are fixated on getting that iconic shot no matter what. Sometimes getting the iconic photo of course can be the right choice, but in many cases it is the wrong one. Because you know that there is an iconic photo to take, you ignore everything else. You ignore how's the weather, where is the light hitting, the other photography opportunities out there. You don't even look for those because you are fixated on getting that one photograph. I want to take this example from Austria. You might have seen this spot somewhere online, and I had two when I wanted to take this photo. The reality of this photo is very different in real life. There's a lot of people, there's a queue, at least back then was, probably still is, and probably even bigger now when I'm recording this. And yeah, the photo is nice, but it's not like wow. I had this idea that okay, I want to go and get this photo, but I wasn't fixated on the process, because on the way I was looking, and I am always looking for other photography opportunities, or at least I'm open to them. And on the way up we saw this spot, and I thought that this was really amazing. And it was just my group of people that I was traveling with. There wasn't a queue, and I felt it was nicer. Like I had these leading lines in the foreground leading to the person watching the view. And I would have completely missed this had I just ignored that spot and only been fixated on the most iconic photograph I could take. This does get us a problem though, that we outdoor photographers do face, and that is a decision on whether do we take a photo or do we not take a photo. And this is something that I learned from Thomas Heaton, I believe. That it is one of the most important decisions to know when to not take a photo as well. Because if you do take a photo of everything, then you're gonna miss out on the best photos. But then if you never take any photos, then of course you're not gonna get great photos. So it's this balancing act also when going to photograph these iconic places. So my recommendation would be that yes, you can go for your iconic photo, but do not close out other opportunities while you're hiking, while you're traveling there. Those photos might end up being much better than the iconic photo, and you might have a much better experience. So if you feel like you have found a photo that is potentially better than the iconic photo, it's totally okay to drop off the iconic photo and then take the other photo. Now I know it is easier said than done to find amazing, unique shots at iconic places, and that's why I help other photographers get better at their photos and train their eye to see these kind of stories to tell on field. So if you do want my help to transform your photos in a very short period of time, then just go to the description and join the waitlist to my Storylines mentorship over there. Alright, the second thing I want to talk about is respect at the iconic locations. This is something I feel not enough photographers just get. If you are somewhere early with your tripod and so on, in my opinion you are absolutely entitled to stay there as long as you want. You did the effort to show up early to take the photo, so does it take you 15 minutes to get that photo or 2 hours? In my opinion, you don't need to move. Now there are certain, of course, rules in some places. You know, some are very regulated, like you need to queue up and you need to pay a fee. These are a bit different. But if there is no regulation, so to say, in my opinion, if you have showed up and been the most early to the location, you can stay there. You can stay there. Of course, once you have got your photo, then it's respectful to give other people the chance to maybe use the composition that you had somewhere, or at least have the same spot as where you were photographing. But you can take the photo first, no matter how long it takes you. I was in Japan earlier this year, and there was somebody who was very rude to me, and that surprised me, because nobody had really been rude to me when it comes to photography before. And yeah, I was confused. I was taking these photos of these gorgeous houses that were lit up, and this light up happens 4 times a year, or at least in 2025 it was 4 times, and it's very difficult to get there, to get a photo. And there is a small area where the houses kind of line up in a very nice way in the photo, so I wanted to be there early. Now, like, there was a difficult way to get in, because the only way to get in was to be able to secure a bus ticket, and then that also did work as a ticket to the place to enter there, and so I couldn't get there like hours before others. But anyway, I was still there early, because the first thing I headed there when I got the location. So I put my tripod and then I waited for the blue hours. That was like 1 hour of waiting, I think. And then after the blue hour came and the light up was happening, I got some photos for me, but I wasn't yet happy with the photos. So of course I wanted to keep on taking photos until I was happy, and then I could just move on to other spots in the village. But then there was this man who was starting to collide with my tripod, and I was like, this is just weird behavior. And then not soon after, he kind of pumped into my shoulder, and I was like, that's weird. And then he said something, and I was like, wait, sorry, what? And then he was pissed. He told me hey, in some sort of words, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he said, I've been there for too long, it's time for you to go away. And I thought that was very rude. I had sacrificed other spots to be there, to take the photograph, and he, for some reason, wasn't there in time. Maybe he went to take some other photos himself. Maybe he went for a coffee or a green tea. But yeah, so be respectful. If you are there in time, take the photo. If you're not there in time, don't harass others. Alright? The last point I want to talk about, which I still don't feel most photographers get, and for an understandable reason. And that is that it is not required to get the iconic photo. So the first point I talked about was about reading the light, the weather, and also being open to other photo opportunities. This third point, what I want to say, is that it is absolutely okay to just decide to not go and take the iconic photo. Even if you see others going for it, preaching about it online, you don't need that. Now I'm in Bali and there's so many iconic photos to take, and I've turned down so many photo spots because I didn't want to go through the process of getting them. Now here, some spots that were like hidden gems in like 2018 and stuff, like then there were like amazing photo opportunities and the world wasn't aware of them. But now the world is very much aware of them, and so are the locals. So then some spots have become tourist traps as well. And I know that I have missed out on some cool photos, like the famous Bali treehouse, because I didn't want that. It sucked the enjoyment out of me knowing that I need to first pay an entrance fee, which is kind of fine, but then I need to pay separately to be allowed to take a photo, and then I'm given 2 minutes to take a photo while there's others lining up for an hour or multiple hours. So I decided to not take that. Instead, I chose to photograph other spots that weren't as popular and there weren't this kind of processes. So when you find out some spots you want to visit and photograph that have this, don't feel you need to go and photograph them. It is totally okay to just choose something else, maybe less popular, and this gets you the chance to also get something unique and also enjoy more of the process. To me, photography, if you're anything like me, to me photography is not just about snapping the final photo. So I don't want to just go to some beautiful scenery and just take a photo. To me it's completely meaningless then. It's like just a robot, you know, anybody could do that. I want that there is story, there is challenge, there's depth behind every photograph that I make. I want that I struggle a bit. Maybe I need to do a hike. Maybe I need to go through difficult logistics to get to the location. I don't want to just very easily, randomly just get a photograph that everybody else has taken. Because to me it doesn't matter. So, yeah, I give you the full permission to skip out on the most iconic photos in sacrifice to getting something else, something more unique, and have actually more fun, which in my opinion is the most important part in all of photography. So my friend, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, the chances are you're gonna like this video too, so check it out next.